Namaste and welcome. Today I've got beautiful Suzi here practicing alongside me, and we have a 20-minute class today based in and around the shoulder area. So I'll get you to start in child's pose, and I'll get you to bring your hands back behind so that the palms roll open beside the feet and that the shoulders roll forward, and just let the body settle here. You'll feel the spine being supported by the thighs. You can let your belly be nice and soft. And just slowly begin to bring breath into the back of the body. And you'll feel that rise and fall. And become really aware of those lower ribs, especially the floating rib. And see if you can just flare that area out a little more. Then you can shift and adjust as much as you need. And while you're finding these locations in the body, another area that is really nice to press the breath into is right between your shoulder blades. And it's almost like you're putting the breath up in a direction directly up and then letting it spread out wide across the shoulder blades. And then as you exhale, this area just simply melts down. And doing this a couple of times until you find a rhythm there that feels really natural. And the shoulders for me are my area that I tense in. We all have one or two areas. Some people will go right for the jaw. Others, they get a lot of backache, lower backache, or neck ache. And for me, it's that shoulder area right up into the neck. So it's an area I return to again and again in my own practice, just to remind myself to release, because I'll often be holding tension here without realizing it. And if you're a little bit the same, we can look at the energetics behind that and what we do, like every time we say yes to something that doesn't really resonate with us, or we put somebody else ahead of us, or we pile another chore on top of our list that we do in the day, that's, I always think, the equivalent of just loading another grain of sand onto the shoulders. And we do this daily, weekly, yearly. And if we don't address it, we end up with this huge weight on our shoulders, like this heaviness that we don't even realize we have put there ourselves. And it's through the practice of yoga that we can just notice all of these things that we keep adding on and burdening ourselves with, that we really can just let go of. It can be that constant nagging thought of what that person said to you 10 years ago. It can be last week or yesterday. It can be any myriad of things that we just carry around. And you don't have to look very much further than your family to realize that even some of their well-meaning comments, or just a passing little joke between the family members, can actually be carried around by somebody, for a long, long period of time. And so we always come back to that beautiful principle of yoga, ahimsa, where, non-harm in our thoughts leads to non-harm in our words. And when we're not harming with our words, we're not loading people up. That's even before you get to the actions. So as you're breathing here, and as you've given yourself time to breathe into the back of the body, this is the area of self-love. And this is what we really need to connect to. And that's why I've given it a little bit of time, because this area of self-love needs to be super developed for us to even go there, for us to even say we need to do the work for ourselves. And just giving yourself a moment to consider where you hold your tension, because it might not be in the shoulders, but we're going to offload a little of that today.
as you take your next breath, gently bring the arms forward and stretch the arms nice and long. Try and creep the fingers as far forward as you can on the mat, and then actively draw the shoulder blades down and flatten them against the rib cage. Keep that action there and then come up onto all fours. And set your shoulders directly above your wrists. We're going to drop the chest down and let the shoulders lift. And without arching the spine too much, we're just going to do some press-ups with the shoulders and then press the earth away, round up. So you're getting this full articulation up and down. Empty the breath, lowering a little, arms staying straight. And then pressing up. Lowering down again. And pressing up. It's just warming up those connective tissues and bits and pieces that make up your shoulder. Tuck your toes, come back to downward dog. And for this one, we're going to bend our knees a lot, taking your knees almost down to ankle height so that your wrists are really flat. And then press into the fingertips and the palms so that you're pushing the hips back towards the back wall. Now here we have our shoulders at full extension, and they're actually quite loaded with our body weight, but the load isn't directly down. So right now I'm going to get you to try and lift your armpits up and then wrap your rib cage in, and you'll feel your chest starting to support your shoulders a little more. Then start to lift the hips up a little higher. Don't worry about straightening the legs all the way. So long as you can keep feeling that hugging towards your armpits, your chest. Take a breath. Bend the knees, look forward, and step to the front of the mat. Feet a good hip width apart here, half lift, lengthen, and fold, just letting the shoulders get heavy. Grab opposite elbow, and then draw the elbows forward so the upper arm's right next to the ears, letting the shoulders then become really heavy. And at this point, I want you to loosen the arm bones. So I want you to feel like the arm bones are simply hanging out of the socket, and you're getting this nice juicy stretch with all of that connective tissue. And that can be a tricky one to find because we often overdo things, especially if you're a bit of an overachiever. You might be gripping, so just wiggle them side to side or backwards and forwards until you feel like, yeah, I've loosened. And then release the hands. Oh. Take the hands behind the back, interlace the fingers, and stretch the arms as straight as you can as you come up to a half lift. So you're going to lift up. Now, if this is really hard for you and you can't grab your hands, simply grab your elbows, but try and roll your shoulders back. And we're going to lift the hands as high as we can and then fold. And the hands move over towards the front. So I'm going to give a nice little assist here. I'm going to press into the thoracic and remind Suzi to squeeze between the shoulder blades. And then I'm going to really gently, and I'm not putting much pressure on here, I'm just sort of giving the energetic that the hands are moving forward. And then release the hands down. And again, let them just simply hang. And come up slowly, slowly, slowly. Like your arms are hanging out of the socket the whole way. And we roll the shoulders when we arrive. Bring the big toes to touch. The most common way we take our arms up is often wide, and that doesn't always suit everybody. So for today, we're going to just talk a little bit on that. And first of all, we're going to bring the hands up through the heart, and this is probably the safest way. When we get to the top, it's not always easy for people to get above their head and then squeeze the hands. So the hands can come apart here. The other option
is wrapping your triceps towards each other, bringing the hands slightly forward so that you're still getting this full extension, but it's so much less strain on the neck. And so here with Suzi, I'm going to get her to wrap her ribs right in, but then really squeeze the arms. So there's a lot of energy, and just as much energy and strength is going here as if I was to be forcing this back here and then lifting my shoulders to my ears and finding it very squishy. So let's take that deep breath. Bring the hands back to the heart. Take the hands by the sides, palms face the front. And the other way to come up is hands face the front until they get to the shoulders. And then we're going to wrap the triceps and come back to that same shape with the arms slightly in front of the body. To go back down, you can actually take the same motion. Palms open out and fold. Half lift, inhale, fold, exhale. Half lift, inhale, step back to high plank. And here I want you to be really pressing the earth away. So in that initial one where we were letting the shoulders sink down, that was really just to warm up the shoulders. Here it's more about pressing and using the shoulder muscles. Take a breath. Drop the knees. Spin the inner side of the elbows forward. So this is going to ensure that your shoulders move forward and your elbows move back, because I don't want your elbows to go out wide. I want you to come forward, even if you only bend your elbows a little, like I'm doing, or go the whole way like Suzi's doing. And then we're going to press back and push the hips back. Just give the shoulders a break. This is strengthening for the shoulders. Come forward, shoulders over wrists. You're going to try and move the chest forward, bend the elbows, leave the elbows right there. Come back and push back. One more time. I know it's pretty intense when you slow this down. We're going to lower all the way on a count of 3. Come a third of the way. 2, really use your core, fingertips are pressing, and lower down. Hopefully without a face plant. Turn the toes. Squeeze the shoulder blades towards each other here. Press into the feet and come into that baby cobra. Then lower down. Tuck your toes, push your hips back to the heels. And take your hands behind into that child's pose and feel what's going on in your shoulders. So even though we slowed that right down, there was a lot of movement in and around the shoulders. So again, come into that breath of self-love into the back of the body. And know that in those few little actions, you've managed to just offload a couple of those grains of sand. And your shoulders are probably going, what the hell, I've not felt like this for a while. And when you're ready, bring your hands back to the front and make your way back into downward facing dog. Now press the earth away. And at the same time, I want you to feel like you're getting that little squeeze between the shoulder blades so that you're active. And this is really supporting the shoulders. Bend the knees, look forward, step to the front. Half lift, inhale. Forward fold, exhale. Let's take the arms wide to come up. Inhale. Remember to wrap the little pinkies in the triceps. Hands melt to the heart. Nice. Inhale, your choice of how you take it up. Exhale, fold. Half lift, inhale. Step back to high plank. A deep breath in. You can drop your knees in chaturanga. So we try and articulate that slow, strong shoulder movement. Baby cobra, squeeze between the shoulders. And downward facing dog. Just one breath here.
A steady breath out. Right leg lifts to the sky. Tiger's curl. So in this tiger's curl, I want your shoulders right over your wrists. So come forward, come forward. So your shoulders are right over your wrist, and then try and squeeze your heel right up to your butt. Look down, right at that right thumb, and then step the foot. Nice. Crescent lunge. We're going to come up forward with the hands. Let the palms press, and then we can still create that same shape. And as you can see here, Suzi has quite open shoulders. So Suzi can come up quite close to her ears. And this is ideal for Suzi's shoulders. And I say that because not everyone has the same shoulder. So I want you to really work at coming back as far as is possible, but know that coming right next to the ears, even if you hear it in a class, isn't always what is required. Take a breath and bring the hands to the heart. Now, if that ever gets too intense, and I know I've been in loads of classes where that's happened and I'm like sweating bullets while everyone else seems to be omming, this is your option. Bring your arms right up to shoulder height, your elbows, and then you try and pull your palms back. So this is really beautiful for the shoulders, for the chest, for the pecs. And it's really quite active. We can actually grab between the shoulder blades here too and draw them down. So you're using all of those beautiful ancillary muscles and strengthening your shoulders at the same time. And this is particularly good if you have any issues with taking your shoulders high. So whenever anyone else is in this shape, you can happily and with strength be in this shape. Take a deep breath. And let's open out Warrior Two. Now, Warrior Two is one of those poses that when you first start yoga, you're thinking, why the hell do I have to hold my hands out like this for so long? But it's incredibly strengthening. So draw the shoulders down the spine. You really want those arms to wrap out, but also the thumb, the index finger to wrap in. And the more energy you put out into those fingers, the less load is actually going to be on the shoulder because the muscles in the arms are taking some of the brunt. Let's take another breath. Hands to the mat. Come through a flow. And again, listen to what your body needs. If you need to drop knees, let's do an upward facing dog here if you're ready. Always listening to what your body needs. One breath here. Empty. Left foot steps. Slightly coming to tiger's curl. It didn't actually step, it was lifting, sorry. Now shoulders here, right over wrist. Look where they are and bring them forward. That's it, that's the key. Heel gets higher. Look at the thumb and just place the foot. Nice. Coming up, hands going to wherever. So I'm going to choose this one. I did about 3 hours of surfing yesterday, so my shoulders are loving this. Not. Palms reach back. They always feel so much better afterwards. So we're just holding this shape, holding the integrity, seeing if we can enlist a few more muscles. So I can feel my ribs were flaring, so I pulled them in. But at the same time, my hands want to come forward and I have to pull them back a little more. Another thing to watch is that your elbows aren't dropping and drooping, that you're really lifting and holding that shape. So there's loads of integrity. And we've got another 2 breaths of smiling. One more. Let's push open to Warrior Two. And I'm going to talk to you about what happens in those classes, especially, there's a lot of young mums that carry babies around all day. And the last thing their shoulders need is to load it here. Even though it's strengthening, I want you to do it for as long as you can. And then you take the choice to take a breath
And if you can't hold any longer, you just let your arms float down. And then on your next inhale, you bring them back. And you create that same strength. And you hold it again for as long as you can. And if you're really fatiguing, you let them do it again. And you can do that as often in the practice as you like, so long as you're not just going, oh, I'm done, because it's not really a considered move. Take one more breath, hands to the mat, and we flow. Pressing the earth away. Gently come down onto your knees, bringing your hands back, sitting back on the heels, and coming into pose of the child. Now, this is going to feel particularly nice right now. So just letting the shoulders get really heavy. And you might notice that the breath comes quite easily into the back now because we've actually moved and opened it up. And the body's so fascinating in the way it learns so quickly. So that leading into your practice with that awareness of your breath is so vital. It's such an important part of the practice not to miss, because when we return to it, it's so natural. And then we're going to come back forward. So bring the hands forward, and I'm going to get you to bring your feet through. For this next pose, I'm just going to do one. There's so many shoulder opening poses that we can do to restore. And often we focus on, the chest, but it's more pec. Rather than today's one, I'm going to focus is really about internal rotation, getting the shoulder, the connective tissue in the shoulder to actually stretch a little so that we're not so bound up. And I'm hoping, because I find this one quite challenging myself, that you'll enjoy it as much as I do. We're going to lay down. I'm going to actually set this up with Suzi. So she's going to lay down. And I'm going to get Suzi to roll over to this side. Yep. Place your hand up. Yep, as far as you can. And you're just steadying yourself. Now, I'm going to get Suzi to lift up her right hand. Yep. And here, she's going to turn her thumb to the front of the room. Right. So now she's internally rotated her shoulder. And then she's going to try and take that arm behind her back. So here she's going to work it up as far as she can. Now this one is tricky. You're trying to get your elbow as close to the body as you can. I know, it's a challenge. Yes, so snug it in, and get this elbow as close to, yes. Okay, now bend this right leg and place the foot behind, and you're going to slowly, slowly lower yourself onto that hand. Now, this leg is imperative that you use it. Some people are going to just lay there so easily. So this is a massive, it's using your body weight. And then, as you can see, Suzi's got quite, open shoulders. So once she worked out that, oh yeah, I'm not going to injure myself, she's just like fallen into a nice, relaxed state. And if you can, the idea is to work your hand up the spine more than across the body, but it might start across the body. So I wouldn't work it while there's weight on it, but that's something that you'd work towards eventually. And you're going to just let your body soften. So often when we're here, we're still holding, and it's a bit similar to our shoulders. Our shoulders are so good at holding all of that shit and not letting it go, and not even letting us know that it's holding that shit, until we release it. So this would be a nice one at first, to not hold for too long, because you need to work up to it. Now to come out, I don't want you to move that arm too much. So I'm going to get you to slowly roll back and let the arm just be where it is without trying to shift it. So you're going to come back onto the body, and then you lay the arm along the body. So you just lay it there and let everything. So your body is supporting the arm, and you're just letting whatever's happening in that shoulder happen, because it's just going, holy hell. Yeah, does it feel, it never feels good during. Most of the poses that I find the most rewarding are the ones that I'm hating on in the middle of it. And then when you stop feeling any of that sort of stuff, you turn over and you roll to the other side, and you might want to take that arm up above so you're supporting your head. Yeah. And now I'm going to get Suzi to reach that arm up to the sky, spin the thumb, and take that arm around. So I just noticed Suzi's got a watch on. Now this can, oh, it's one of those really super trickies. I'm going to just slip that off. And you might bear that in mind if you've got, you know, the big rock ring on, or anything that is going to hurt, is going to dig into your skin. So she's just establishing where she can be on this side. And I can already see that this shoulder's a little more open than the other one because the elbow's hugged in, and she probably has a bit more of an idea. I'm going to get you to bend this knee and put it behind you so that you can lower yourself with care. You really don't want to force your way down and just wallop yourself onto the floor. You might only get halfway. Not everyone's going to be able to come all the way onto their back like Suzi. I know it took me quite a while, especially on one side. I was able to do it on the other a long time before I could even get halfway down on the other side. And I noticed that Suzi's ribs have flared a little. And all of those things, they're just like, they're our body holding. And it's just fear, it's all sorts of things. It's an unknown movement for our body. So the initial thing the muscles do is secure, safety, and they're doing everything they should. So the softer you can let your body be, and even if you can imagine, yeah, the shoulder just resting. And I often like to picture, I don't know about you guys, but my mum used to watch Days of Our Lives when I was a kid. It's probably still going. And I used to love like sands through the hourglass. And I often picture the loads of crap that I'm carrying, just like sands in the hourglass draining from my shoulder without the melodrama and the people coming back from the dead like they used to in that show. And so we stay here for that same amount of time. And again, I really build up to the length of time you stay in this. We're going to come out of this slowly. And again, we're going to not move this arm. It's very tempting if it has been painful or more discomfort. I don't want you to feel pain. Just to lay that across the body and let your body hug the arm. And then when you feel like it's restored, I'm going to get you to just roll over onto your spine and find your Shavasana shape. Let your palms simply roll open. Let yourself feel that little bit lighter. And just that last reminder, breathe into the back of the body and let it roll up through the back of the body, and just a really big bubble of self-love just bursts through your body. It would be wonderful if you could stay in that mindful state for at least a couple of minutes if you have the time. Thank you so much for practicing. Namaste.